everyone. Welcome to the Horror Room. I'm Travis Bruce, and today we're doing another indie horror spotlight. I have an amazing guest with us here today. He's an indie horror filmmaker. I have my man, Adam Riot Thorne. Adam, welcome to the Horror Room.
Thanks for having me, Travis. Glad to be here. Heard only great things about you through friends, and glad to be part of the show.
You as well, man. You as well. Chris Brown, who I interviewed, had nothing but praises to say about you and Terry.
Chris is one of the most positive people on the planet. That even that I haven't had him in any of my films yet. I technically will. We'll talk about that later. But he hasn't been in anything I've done yet. Yet he's still been an incredible help either way.
Okay. Well, I heard you got some exciting news. You do have two of your films that's being released on Blu-ray.
Yeah, Gold Ninja Video, who are a bunch of guys who are close to my heart in general. They've been releasing a bunch of weird, hard to get stuff. They've recently been finding their main part of their label was to find old prints of public domain stuff and try to remaster them and clean them up. But then every so often now they'll pick an indie guy who is the underground, and they'll release and kind of clean up a shot on video film as well. So I have Amityville Outhouse and Rock and Roll Asylum come as one Blu-ray, a double feature, which is available now on goldenninjavideo.com. So finally the world can see both of those, and I don't have to print out copies and mail them to people.
Nice. Definitely everybody should check them out. Now, I've had the pleasure to see a film that you worked on. It was called Natasha 90s Fedora of Blood.
Oh, yeah. It's funny you brought that up as we called in. I was like, what? Did I have something to do with that? And I was like, oh, yeah, I did, didn't I? Actually, I don't know how well do you know that label, SOV Horror?
Not that well.
No, okay. Actually, hang on. Here's the one film of mine they released. I'll see if I can get it to not shine. It's Assault on the Snake Man, also is a double feature with my film Muppet Pastor.
That sounds awesome.
Their company is really great because they're a real big help to the underground. They're like a one-man show, but they've released a lot of friends of mine and people that I find as heroes in the underground, people that I relate to. And at the beginning of COVID, they, like all of us, were worried, where are we going to go? Luckily, there was a bit of a boom for ordering stuff to your house at that point. Everyone just started finding things was easier to do. So there was a little bit of a boom. So they were nice enough to release for a short period of time one of my films. We did that as a tiny little deal. And then they started making projects where all of us as like a family and a group would send in stuff. So that's the Natasha movies of Boudoir of Blood and Nighttime Terror. I can't remember off the top of my head exactly what they're called, but they filmed their own little wraparound, and they got like 3 of their friend directors to make shorts for it. One of the great guys in that, I believe Ron Ford, did one of those, and I'm a big fan of his. He's an old schooler in the no budget underground stuff. Through that, I actually started becoming pretty good friends with him online. We throw ideas out together all the time, but just all of us threw and sent little things in. I didn't get any of my shorts in them, so I ended up as like a commercial in those. So there's a bit where I'm selling ghosts at one point, and I think on their other volume, as a like Easter egg, there was a part of a dating show thing I added. But yeah, there were much more bigger, more established guys who ended up making the shorts on that anthology, and then they just sort of opened up to us as a family basically and said, hey, everybody who wants to make something, throw something in. Since then, a lot of guys were doing that. We all got bored during COVID and we were locked in. We're like, well, we can only film in our own house with a green screen, so how about we all do that and we just edit it into movies. The only problem with that is now a lot of guys are still doing that, and it's getting a little old.
Yeah. Now, tell my fans this. I just recently got, since I started the show, and there's a huge, especially in Toronto and Canada, a huge indie, no budget, underground horror scene. So tell my audience a little bit about the underground.
I think in Canada and Toronto, we just like to talk about it a lot.
Yes,
because it's not that there's that many of them doing it. Like if you go into like smaller states like go more south, and that there are just a huge history of like DIY, do it in your backyard, shot on video guys who were doing it back when that material was new, and even now that everyone can kind of do it, they're still doing it. It hasn't made it tired of them. In Toronto, I think with a bunch of weird little filmmakers, probably the same thing you would find in LA in a weird way, because Toronto's kind of the Hollywood of the North. We've got all these studios up here, like all the big TV shows, all the action TV shows film here. So everyone knows a guy or has tried out or has done a day or two of work on one of those shows. If not just set building or like just helping out on the stage work or as an extra or something. And then for the rest of us that can't get better jobs than that, when we realize, oh, we're not handsome enough actors, or we're not like skilled enough technicians, while we do that once in a while, we get way too fidgety and we get way too jealous, so we just start making our own things in our backyards, which is it's a jealousy that fools us and fuels us. It's and I'm sure if you talk to a lot of guys in LA, you've got like 10 guys who are getting real jobs, and each one of those guys knows 100 friends that have to do it at home because they only
Yeah.
get like one day of work a week and stuff like that. So
Speaking of what you saying that Toronto is like the LA in the United States, it is 100% true, because for anybody who's never been to, especially Toronto, I've been to Toronto twice, and I remember the first time going, I was like, wow, there's a lot of good looking people here. and and like, but it's still, it's like the LA, it's like where everybody flocks to try to. I never know that it was like the LA of Toronto, but now it makes sense.
well, the rest of Canada gets mad at Toronto because the fact that everything happens here. We have all this space and no one else is anywhere else. We all move into one spot because we thought, this is the only way we can make it or break it. I attempted doing that about a dozen or so years ago when I moved up here, and didn't work out so well. So I could be one of my friends that was on the set of Scott Pilgrim and was told I don't look indie hipster enough. They don't need me as an extra anymore. And me and one other friend, because we bring that up all the time, and we're like, how did that happen? How did they one point just say to us, guys, you don't seem like rock hipster enough. We don't want you in the background anymore. And we're like, were we doing something bad? And like, no, I think they just really meant that. And we're like, do we take this as an insult or not? I don't know. I can't take that. But yeah, that every person who moved to Toronto hoping that they could be the Canadian actor that could break into the business, every one of them has that story, even if they did make it, but most of them did not. This is how the business goes.
Yeah, because I never heard that term underground horror until like a couple months ago. I interviewed from Toronto. He's called the king of underground horror.
Did he call
You know
himself
what I'm talking
that?
about?
I'm not sure if I know.
Okay. He made a movie called the Glory Hole of Death
Oh,
or something like
I was like,
that.
that's what you have to mean. You must mean the glory hole. Yeah.
Yeah, the Glory Hole guy.
Yeah, he's an interesting guy. I'm trying to think if we know each other in person. We talk to
I
each
can't
other
think
every
of his
so often.
name off the top of my
Yeah,
head.
I just know from, and he's one of those guys with an Instagram. His Instagram's not his name, so I just call him by
Yeah.
his phone. I apologize, buddy, if we have met face to face. I know we know each other through the business. I've seen Glory Hole. I've also seen his vampire film that takes place in a park near my house.
I've actually seen that one. That
Yeah,
was
High Park
that,
Vampire.
yeah.
This is also how Toronto is a how to put it, just a shared space in a sense. Are you familiar with an infamous Canadian film called Things?
Mm-mm.
So there is an American film called Things, and it's on that underground level too. It's totally a coincidence, and they have like 5 sequels for that. But there's a Canadian one, and through the internet, it is very, very infamous. It's made by a filmmaker who is a really wacky guy, but he made this movie in the 90s, so way before it was easy for everyone to have like Final Cut Pro on their computer, or have like you even use their phones, let alone having an easy digital
Yeah.
camera at the time to do this stuff. Um, And am I going to say that Things is a good movie? No, no, I'm not. It's not a good movie. And they know it. They know what they did. But they're because they were doing it not ironically like a lot of us are. A lot of us are like, it's funny. We're like, so what if it didn't cost a lot of money? He put a lot of effort into that film, and
Hmm.
Things became this infamous thing around Canada. I think if you look, Joe Bob Briggs played it at the beginning of this year
Oh,
because he
really?
finally heard about it, and he's like, I'm gonna play shot on video films because it made him fall in love with the genre, because it's that bad, but so honestly that bad. Like
Hmm.
it's at no point does it like wink at the camera to itself, but it's so
I love
strange,
it.
it's so weird. And then that director went on to try to make more films. And at one point, as a Ontario, Canada, Toronto filmmaker, I needed to binge all of his stuff to be like, okay, let me just make sure I'm not doing what this guy does. And when I was actually making that Steakman film that I showed you the cover of, we went out to High Park, the same place that that vampire movie is filmed, because it's
Hmm.
really like almost walking distance from me. And we did a kill scene in this little pit in the woods near that park. It's got a big, actually like forest area in the middle of a city, which we're lucky to have. And so we did this scene where we uh, got this old sword and we stabbed a guy from above, and he sprayed grape soda out because it was the only way we could get like every time we tried to get red stuff to show on camera, it didn't show up well enough. So he sprays purple all over this guy and he's all bloody. And then later that night, we were hanging out, me and the guy who did the stabbing anyway, we're hanging out and watching Wicked World, made by the maker of Things, one of his lesser known movies, and he does an almost exact same kill scene in the exact same part of the park. And I'm like,
Oh.
I give up. What are we doing? Whatever. Like, it's fine. We'll just tell everyone it's an homage, but good enough. So yeah, I mean, we all sort of know each other. There's a lot of people, there's millions of people in this city, but it's still a very niche, weirdo audience for that kind of stuff. There's lots of cool little theaters that will play our stuff. I know, yeah, Glory Hole played at a Glory Hole Death Trap that it played
Yeah.
at a like a legit theater at one point. A big marquee and saw it on there. I didn't know he was even doing it, and I was like, he's been pushing that film for years and is not tired at all yet. And then kudos to him for that.
Hmm.
That is some intestinal fortitude to just be like, I don't care if half the world doesn't relate to my film. You're gonna see it whether you like it or not. So
I
good
mean,
for him.
it was an amazing interview, and I mean, he wore a black cloak. And listen, I gotta look up his name because he actually sent me a message. He sent me a funny video about let's bring cloaks back. Like,
That's why I was trying to
and I
think of
laughed.
first, because I was like, him and I have definitely messaged each other. And I was like, oh, he's even more in character than I am. I mean, granted, Riot is not my birth middle name, but I'm not. I don't think I have quite the personality that he has. So kudos to him.
Total cloak, and I was like, even when I did the interview, I was like, wow, he's like in the character. Like I commend that. I mean, that commitment to stay into that character.
There's a lot of cool guys that are doing that, and it does alienate some people. Um, Thinking of how it's weird that this is. I'm trying to be careful with my words because I don't want to accidentally throw anybody under the bus because nobody deserves that. Even
Mhm.
the jerkiest of us in this industry, we're still all kind of friends. An example of that, a couple of months ago, maybe less than that, like guys like Red Letter Media did a big thing about films that rip off Sharks in Amityville, that rip off Jaws in Amityville. And at one point, they brought up one of my films, and they said to me the best thing. They're like, "Well, we can't even make fun of this. This guy's just doing a low budget thing for fun. He knows the joke. He did it on purpose." And then I was like, "Wait a minute. I know all these guys who made these movies in this list. They're all doing it for the exact same reason. Like none of these guys are making money." It's like, how did he feel that about mine more than the rest of them? But I was like, everyone's like, "Oh, he was really nice to you. He didn't want to make fun of you." And I'm like, it kind of made it sound like he didn't give a damn. But I was like, whatever. But but every so often we find that a lot of us, again, especially since COVID, we've all become very active on the internet to try to either sell our films or just sell our personalities. It's very weird when some of us pick like Instagram and Twitter wars with each other. There's a couple of us who have like
Really?
fights with yeah, it's I'm not a fan of it, and I've accidentally walked myself into it for sure. But I don't keep it going like it's a thing. But so I'm gonna throw one guy under the bus right now, and I think he would like it. I think because I feel he does this on purpose. There is a guy who is he goes the artist known as Wig Wolf, and that is what he goes by. I do not know his real name, even that we have chatted and do follow each other on social media, but he has kept to that name. Um, he made a post which sounded like he was very vague post hating another filmmaker in the business. He was Wig Wolf has made this very weird, like seems like a person with some sort of I don't want to say mental illness, but like an artistic mental illness. Like if a normie watched this, they'd be like, I what's going on? I don't get it. And then he just named the movie Wizard of Oz. It just it said that's what it is.
That's it. What's it?
Yeah, it said it's a remake of Wizard of Oz, and it's like, oh, I guess there's one or two moments where I could realize that, but the rest of it, it's like it's an artistic experiment. It's something bizarre. So then he went around making this internet presence, saying as if his movie was like as old as the original Wizard of Oz and was like this masterpiece that people had loved. And it's all internet funny. It's all a joke. It's all a character. And then he brought another filmmaker that didn't know him into it. He knew them, and he figured they were funny enough. And they were the makers of a film, We Love You, Addison. They were a maker for the film called Psycho Ape and the upcoming Psycho Ape 2. And he just made a funny post that said that Wig Wolf's Winter of Wizard of Oz is better than Psycho Ape. He did then go on to say Psycho Ape is still good, but my film is better. But did it in third person as if it wasn't him doing it. I mean, maybe it wasn't. Maybe it's
Love it.
yeah. And he did it to be funny, and it caused not Addison of Psycho Ape to get angry. It caused all these other people on the internet to get angry, going, "What are you doing? Trying to pick a fight with him?" And I think both of them in the end thought this is really funny because now we've got bits on the internet that are mentioning both our names, mentioning our characters. And
Exactly.
Like, maybe that's what Mel Meeks was always doing. Maybe it was always okay.
This is master plan.
Yeah, we should all have internet beef with each other. I'm like, no, don't do that because we're all kind of nerdy and insecure. At some point, one of us is going to take it really seriously. But I have recently seen his yet to be fully released Wizard of Oz film, and I'm still confused. And I have definitely seen Psycho Ape, and it is a huge thumbs up. If you have not seen Psycho Ape,
I'm writing it down.
Yeah, go out and find it. Find a way to see it. I think a couple of streaming platforms have it. Not Tubi yet, but because they're still doing some heavy work. So you usually put your stuff on Tubi either when you've sold it off to somebody and you're done with it,
It's done. Yeah.
are you going to move on to something else? Because if in the world of underground horror, I mean, majority of my friends are all on Tubi. I'm not at the moment. People have asked, do you want to hook up with this agency and put your thing on Tubi? And I'm like, I'll wait till I have something that I feel I can separate from the rest of my stuff. Because I doubt I'm going to make any money off of it. If all of a sudden they told me, oh no, you could make like hundreds of dollars a week, and I'm like, oh sure, whatever. Okay, let's just take whatever I got. But yeah, I've yet to do that. But if you're a guy like me who on a Sunday night has a lot of time in your hands and you just start skimming through the horror section of Tubi, you're going to discover a world you never knew existed.
You never knew. And I'm telling you now, if you do what I do and interview every single underground horror, indie horror filmmaker there is, if you just, I'll interview anybody. Like I'm gonna tell you, like this year, I've seen stuff that I probably would never even seen, like for some Glory Hole. Like I would have never came across that. It really, and it's amazing. Tubi is great. Like there's some good stuff on there, and there's some bizarre stuff on there, and there's just some masterpieces that are completely bizarre that no one, including myself, will even get.
Yeah, well, that's I believe Wig Wolf has one film on there. He has a film called The Wet Ones, and the title alone grosses everyone out.
Yeah.
It's still just his weird, it seems like he's don't think I'm almost guaranteed that's not where he's from, but he feels like he's some late 1970s New York City avant-garde artist who like is hoping Andy Warhol will notice him kind of guy.
Mhm.
But the only other problem with Wet Ones is I think Wet Ones is like 3 hours long. I think when you go flicking through things on Tubi, knowing that it's kind of a crapshoot, that sometimes you're going to find some really awful stuff, and you see a movie is 3 hours long, your immediate reaction is next, because you don't want to take that chance half the time. So I have a feeling that's a movie that has sat there on Tubi and been pretty much untouched.
Well, I go unscripted. I actually watched a 3 hour film recently, and you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. Terry from Canada.
Oh, yes.
Uh,
You saw Open Doom Crescendo recently?
yes, and I mean he's coming on I think next week, but he sent
Oh,
me on,
prepare for that.
yes, and he sent me it over, and I saw 3 hours. I was like, oh shit, I'm not
Yeah.
prepared for this, and like I watched in segments. I watch it for 3 hours, and I was like, I appreciate the commitment to make a 3 hour movie as an indie filmmaker and release it. And I mean, he's put out in theaters and everywhere, and I'm like, that's
Yeah.
amazing.
He toured it. He did like a full legit backup touring of it. It's I adore Terry in so many ways because his commitment is so big, yet he's also the most humblest person in the world. You'd think, I, to me, if I was to take my films and just be like, I'm going to tour it all across the country, I'm going to cross the border, I'm going to tour it there, I need to have a much bigger ego than I do right now to do that. I just don't. I don't feel like I've shown them in other places other than my usual locations and that, and they get sold and they get distributed around. So I get people who I've never heard of before all of a sudden messaging me going, "Hey, I saw this one film of yours was once sold by this company. It's out of print now. Where do I get it?" And every time I hear that message, I am like humbled and my heart grows 3 times larger. But Terry has this ability to not care. He knows that this is going to alienate a lot of people. He knows this is going to be not problematic is not the word because the man is extremely pure. But he knows that there are going to be people who are going to be like, I don't get this. Why do I want to see it? And he does it without a single bit of ego. There's nothing about egotistical about Terry in any way. In this way that the first time I met him, I did not like Terry because the first time he talked to me, I was like, that can't be real. No one can talk like that. No one can be this like pure. I've got a vision, but I've got it as an open concept at the same time. There's no negativity in this at all. I was like, that's a gimmick. You wrote this down, everything you're saying to me. Then we got to know each other, and I'm like, wow, it's him. He's real in every way. This is what an artist is. And so even
Mhm.
if people don't get Terry's stuff necessarily, there will be people who do get it. And when they do get it, they're going to be touched by it. It's going to affect them directly. No one's going to sit on the fence on it. No one's going to either they're going to be like, no, not mine, never going to watch this again, or please explain everything, every single minute detail about this to me, Terry. I need to know everything about it. The first film of his I ever saw, I will straight out admit, and I've told him, Open Doom Crescendo is a tour de force for me. I luckily have seen it twice in a theater, so
Nice.
and it gave me the ability to still go for a bathroom break and get more popcorn. But I get it. I do get it, and I do appreciate it. I like the characters. I like his group of cast that he brings.
Mhm.
I love his passion. But before that, he made a movie called Mango Shake, which is luckily under 2 hours long, and Mango Shake made me absolutely fall in love with it. That movie is incredible. Plug, I believe, maybe not. It may have gone out of print, but it was also available from the Golden Ninja Video Company. I don't know. Check their website. But
Okay.
Mango Shake, to me, is what if David Lynch made a Peanuts movie. It's as
Really?
it's as simple and pure as a bunch of kids looking for what to do during the summer in a school break, or maybe the last year of high school and they haven't moved on to work or anything or college yet.
Mhm.
So it's a bunch of kids, late teens, who have way too much time on their hands, and it's just sort of watching their relationship and their life, and it jumps around really fast and a little bit odd in sort of a Harmony Korine kind of way. Like, is it filming real people, or no, these people are way too weird. That's not real. People don't talk like that. But it's filmed as if it's just sort of a fly on the wall kind of thing. But then it structures itself, and it finds these weird hitting meanings that are like universal meanings about life in the simplest things of like making ramen, or am I going to make a milkshake, or if I was to make a lemonade stand like a kid and build it like it was like right out of a cartoon of the Little Rascals. But then you're just doing this stereotype kids show thing, but somehow there's these messages in it that say like, yeah, but what does it mean? And
Yeah.
to explain that film to people, to say, and I mean, that's the same way if you explain David Lynch to somebody, saying at some point David Lynch is going to make a guy drink a cup of coffee, and it's going to explain why do we taste. And if I say that to someone who's never watched his stuff, they're like, no, no
That
thanks.
sounds horrible. Yeah.
Yeah, but those who do connect to that will talk about drinking coffee for the next 5 days. They won't stop about it after the first time they've watched the full first season of Twin Peaks. And it's the same thing. Mango Shake did the exact same thing to me. It's so hard for a filmmaker to pitch that, because if you are not naturally into that, you are not going to give that a chance. But so what I did was, during a time that I obviously must have had some expendable money, I bought multiple copies of it just so I could force give it to people. So I could be like, oh, I just left it at your house while I was there. And they're like, would you want it back? I'm like, no, I don't want it back. It's fine. And they're like, oh, hey, I watched it. And like, I knew if I told them to watch it, they wouldn't have done it. But if it just sat there in their shelf, that I put it in their shelf at their house, I was like, I know I'm going to change them. I'm going to change that person. And so far, my track record is good for that.
And I totally agree with you with Open Crescendo. If somebody asked me to explain that fucking movie, I couldn't do it. Like I couldn't explain. I couldn't explain it without. I feel like turning someone off from watching it. And I'm glad I'm interviewing because I got like a billion questions to ask about that movie.
Oh, and he's gonna tell you.
I literally have a billion questions. Like
Terry,
I don't write down questions, but for the
everything.
interview, I'm gonna have questions written because there's a lot of things I want to know about what was going on. What was
I
the
wonder
meaning
if you'll
behind it?
take this away from it too. And this is a funny thing, when a lot of us underground guys who have done multiple films, a lot of us do one for the fun of it, or we do it because we're like in college or university and student film. But once you've done a couple of them and it becomes like your thing, you become a little jaded. You start to become like, if I watch like a major movie, a mainstream thing, I'm like, yeah, I don't know, it doesn't do anything for me anymore. That's just, what goes in isn't necessarily what comes out from your taste anymore. But Terry also amazes me in that, because he'll then go on about how he really loves Zack Snyder. And I was like, you were like the anti-Zack Snyder in everything you do. It's like, it doesn't matter, man. I love it. And I totally love it. We were hanging out for Halloween, and all he wanted to do was watch Insidious. And I was like, really?
That's what Chris Brown asked me to ask him about Insidious. He said, ask him about Insidious, and that would go on forever.
Yeah. So maybe, I don't know. Question yourself if you do. Hey, and he absolutely loved it. Yeah. I mean, again, I think I'm just one of those older, jaded guys in that business. I've done a lot of, I do a film festival called Terrible Fest, and I've done interviews with a lot of the indie guys too, just so I can hype them up, especially if I'm going to play one of their films. There's a couple of the real old schoolers that I talk to online every so often, but I've not done like a one-on-one interview. I think they don't like to do them so much because they're kind of tired of the same questions or something. But
Yeah.
I would love to question guys like Mark Polonia, Todd Sheets. Those are my probably two biggest heroes, of the guys who were doing it like when it was impossible to do it. They were doing it in like 88, 89 and still doing stuff to this day. All they did was, instead of growing old, just became large children. So they just to say like, yeah, do you guys watch mainstream movies? Do you listen to mainstream music? I have a feeling they probably do now, because it's become they've kind of gone full circle. It's become so normal to them. But a guy like Todd Sheets, who I believe he's out of Atlanta originally, somewhere around there. But he when he did stuff, when I first saw his early stuff that he did like right out of high school, he was absolutely this punk rock guy. He so much so that if he was born like a decade later, I'm sure at his school he would have got swept in with all those like Columbine kids, those ones who like everyone's like, you wear a creepy trench coat, you must be danger, you must be a Satanist or something. And but he was doing it like 1989, 1990. And at that point, metal was cool for a little bit, but I know it was still affecting him because this is, I hands down think this is the moment that made me think, oh, I just have to make movies for myself. I just have to do this. Even as a kid, I found this like 8 films on one DVD compilation, and it was of stuff made in the early 90s. So this is like at the dawn of DVD at like 99, 2000. And one of them was a Todd Sheets movie made from the early 90s. And I want to say it was, I think it's Nightmare Asylum, I think it's that one's called. But they at the end of the movie in the credits, Todd has written all these like angry notes. He's written like, things about like, this church saw me filming and they don't like it. So they don't understand. My school didn't want me to show it at my school. They just don't understand me. And I think if someone did that now, it would be a joke to be like, yeah, it's funny, I'm fitting in, I'm being emo or something. And he's not. He was just a 19-year-old really angry filmmaker. And I was like, this is a fuel that must have made this guy go forever. If he gave up after this, I'd be so mad. Then I look him up online. I'm like, oh, he's made like 30 movies and he's still doing it to this day. Incredible. It's so much so that he realized he lived nearish to Dolomite, and Todd filmed like a weekend with Dolomite to make it a movie. He did use a chunk of it for a movie called Violent New Breed. And this is even weirder. So Todd had that, and Violent New Breed, I believe, is getting a remaster from Visual Vengeance. What an amazing, weird label that's been remastering old shot on video guys, which is not easy to do. So I believe Violent New Breed with Dolomite will actually get to be seen by the masses, because I don't think it ever existed other than him selling local VHS tapes of it. But he also had so much footage that he has kept to that day that. And this bugs me because I can't watch this as a Canadian unless I put a VPN on. On Tubi, through the American Tubi only, there is a mini series that he recently made with his friends I'm going to say it wrong because I'm on the spot. Not Foxy Brown, but the other one. What is the? Hopefully you'll edit part of this because I'm going to had to look it up. He made a mini series based off of the, I think, like Corman produced late 70s movie. Oh man, you look him up on Instagram and it's like a million. Oh, TNT Jackson. So he made
nice.
He made a mini series with present day actors based off TNT Jackson. And he edits old footage that he has of Dolomite into it, as if people like get him on the phone and it was just more footage he still had.
That's amazing.
So Dolomite gets to be in 2023 in a remake of TNT Jackson just because he answered the phone when Todd Sheets called him, because Todd Sheets at that time and to this day is afraid of nothing. And so he made a movie about 3-4 years ago called Clownado, where it was his joke saying, I'm making fun of the Sharknado thing.
I've actually seen that.
And people give him hell for it because they were like, oh, you're just trying to cash in on it. And he's like, I guess. I mean, more making fun of it. But everyone thought he was dead serious because the movie's played so straight. So if you look in the comment sections of anything that's a trailer for that, the internet nerds are attacking him. And
I actually see that movie, yes.
Yeah, and it's a required taste too. But again, to put that on paper, then go to his friends and pay these people too. Like I pay my actors in pizza and T-shirt or something half the time, or maybe give them money so they can get home on the bus. But Todd does this legit, and he does it out of his own pocket. And he's done maybe little Kickstarters in the past, but in general, no, it's his idea, his money, his love. Which and to make that movie, put it out, see those responses. I kind of like it. It's not my favorite of his,
It's
but
not.
it does have a whole lot of passion and power into it. But it doesn't. It for me personally, it doesn't do the greatest thing. But people who have no idea who he is saw that movie and were like, "You loser! Why would you do?" And they didn't even watch the movie. I bet they just saw the trailer, saw that it was joking off that, thought you're just another guy trying to do the sci-fi network thing. You're trying to do it at home, and
It just looked
like
like
just
it just looked like a funny bad movie. By the way, I saw it last year. It was streaming on Tubi.
yeah.
It might still be on
I
Tubi,
think yeah.
but you but definitely check it out. But it just looks like a ridiculous premise. It
Yeah,
just
and it is, but the magic of it to me is that he doesn't, unlike every Sharknado movie. That the Sharknado movie's first one's kind of fun because it's like, why would you do this? Then afterwards, it's a joke of itself, of itself, of
Mhm.
itself. And but at no point does Todd do that, which I think some
No,
people
it
think
was
that
100%
maybe.
serious. Yeah.
Yeah, I think people think that maybe Todd doesn't have a sense of humor, and he totally does. He gets it, and he just knows. He knows the people who've been backing him all this time get it, and he's like, I don't. He doesn't care otherwise. It's like, this is what I wanted to do, and I'm going to do it. He made, and you wouldn't notice it. And I extremely recommend it if you want an actual horror film. He did a movie called Final Caller, which was made around the same time, and he didn't hype that very much. He didn't do a lot of internet talk for it because it was a smaller, legit horror film. Stars one of the same actors. You recognize a lot of the same faces. He's got his group, his buddies who always come back for it. He knows who he wants to work with, plus any random celebrity. If he can get Linnea Quigley to show up again for a couple minutes, great. Who wouldn't? But the movie Final Caller is about a serial killer who calls into a shock rock late night radio show, and the shock rock guy has to try to keep him on the phone.
Nice.
So smaller, it's ugly, but all of a sudden you realize, oh, those actors were hamming it up because now all of a sudden they can all act. And everybody who saw Clownado was thought like, oh, these guys just can't act. And I'm like, no, that's the joke. Sadly, you guys just missed the joke. But in Clownado, there's a guy who they immediately they think is like a creeper, but he's actually trying to find his lost daughter. That he
Yes.
says, okay, he's the shock rock guy in this, and he's incredible. He is, what if you were to see behind the persona of Howard Stern and found out he was this very broken person, and then he's stuck in this serious moment when he realizes, oh, this is a life or death situation, but he's still this like, but I'm a guy that just says dirty things, come on, I can't be serious, and you
Yeah.
can't put me in charge. And you witness this. Final Caller blew my mind, and which is
I'm gonna
all
check
the
that
more
out.
reason why these guys got to keep doing these films. It doesn't matter if you make something that flops on it, do another one, because you're going to find something that's going to connect to somebody, and that's all we really care about.
See, I need to do a review of Clownado because I actually watched that because I've been I watched. I've been a Tubi fan first when they first came out. I would find any weird looking horror movie and I'd be like, let me try that out. And then I did this channel, and originally I was doing reviews of these movies so that people got to watch them. And but I need to do a review of Clownado. That was I forgot about that one.
I mean, that's kind of the reason I got into making films myself, is that I was reviewing films and I was like, I only really like to review something that I want people to see. If I don't like it, unless I was really disappointed by it, sometimes I'll just need to let that out. So my negative reviews are some sort of catharsis. But in general, my reviews seem shockingly positive. So a lot of people think I like everything, but it's
Hmm.
mainly because if I want to talk about it, it's because I want other people to see it. So, but if I do say something negative, I've definitely had that, and I've had it done to me where someone will take apart one of my films, which I find hilarious because it's like, why did you assume that that was going to be that way? Like, it, no matter what you think I change, it's not going to make it a whole lot better. But it was so that people, if I said, oh, this movie's terrible, and they're like, well, you try making your own film. I'm like, well, I did, and they're also terrible. So therefore I know what terrible is. So I've done it several times. I can compare and going, this is as bad as mine. Therefore it's terrible. But I went this summer and saw the new Neil Breen film, and there was a running gag.
I love Neil.
I mean, there's only so much of Neil I could take. I think it's because I went, and this is probably the kind of reason why there's only so much Neil I can take. For his new film, I went to a theater that was packed, like a full old school theater with a like the balcony setup type thing, and it was just packed with people. All of them were there. Very ironically, there was a licensed bar theater, so everyone was drunk. During the like first two credits, everyone was laughing, and I thought maybe I was going insane because I'm like, what am I missing? What are you laughing at? And then, then I got into it. It was okay, but yeah, there's a running gag in it about a mental patient that keeps showing up at this medical room where doctors are doing terrible things, and he's just standing there, and they're like, I can't remember the character's name, but it's like, Steve, why are you here? And he's like, I just want to see if I can help. It's like, get out of here, Steve. And he runs away, and he just keeps showing up again. And every time that happened, I'm like cowering, covering my face, because I'm sitting with two of my friends who I think one of them at least was in Rock and Roll Asylum, my last film, and they're like, that's a joke you do in your film, like through the whole thing, and even ends kind of the same way. And I'm like, yep. And because everyone's going to see the Neil Breen one, and mine doesn't come out on Blu-ray till this month, there's the amount of people who are going to say to me, I mean, not a lot, that involves a lot of people seeing it, but I guarantee you from a few strangers who pick it up, because Gold Ninja does a pretty good job for themselves, they'll see this, and I will get a message saying, yeah, way to use a Neil Breen joke. And I'm like, there's no way I could explain to them, no, man, I made that like 2 years ago. We only released it now. They're not going to believe me. They're not going to believe me at all.
And for anybody who doesn't know who Neil Breen is, the guy makes vanity projects. I mean, they are the definition of a vanity project.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, if vanity is in the word, my problem with Neil is that Neil thinks, I used to think he was joking, and now I don't think
he's serious. No,
yeah,
he's serious.
that he thinks he's telling you some incredible message. It's like he says, well, it's a really big environmental message. We're trying to save the oceans in this movie. And I'm like, you what? I missed that. Where did that happen? There's a little bit, if you haven't seen his most recent, it's a little weird because he does a few gags in the movie, like straight out gags. And you're like, oh, weird. Now he knows what people expect. It was almost, the new one was almost Cade, I believe it's called. Cade, the title, it's got a whole bunch of subtitles to it. And it connects to his other films, but this is not a spoiler for anyone who's a fan. If you think it's not going to ruin it, really, really early in the film, like opening scene, credits, first time you see Neil is superimposed. He's green screen in front of a street in San Francisco, and there's a streetcar coming by, and he walks by, and he gets hit by it. Like he actually goes, falls over, then dusts himself off, and just walks away, knowing fine and well he wasn't in front of it. Like his very first appearance in the film, he breaks the fourth wall to basically tell you, obviously this movie's on a green screen. And it's like, which he'd never done before, which I kind of appreciated, because it kind of made me think, oh, he's maybe not as crazy as I thought he was. But because somewhere, if you make that kind of stuff, you have to either be borderline a little crazy, if not a lot crazy, or extremely big ego to think like, oh,
a narcissist. No. Yeah, like a narcissist.
Someone's gonna love that stuff. Like I would not want to interview Neil, because I would not want to find out the truth. I would not want to. I've definitely said to like people in interviews, oh man, I was so like, and like here's an example. There's a guy I love. I do really like his stuff, and Bruce Lungo and I, we get along. We're good friends. And I think the interview went well. And we played Bloodsick Psychosis at my last Terrible Fest event, which I believe is now available on Tubi as well. And his new film, he has a Christmas slasher and he has Pumpkin Man Lives that are out. Those are available on MakeFlix. We'll probably see those very soon everywhere else. Actually, I believe probably even available to like rent on Vimeo probably. But his
Nice.
they're pretty dark. They're dark, kind of not scary, but kind of creepy. They have like a really old school like exploitation, early 80s, late 70s kind of before slashers were funny kind of era. But there's one scene in it that I found really funny. And so I said to Bruce in our first time interviewing, the first time we looked face to face on the internet, and I said to him, I've heard a lot of people really kind of upset with this film because they thought it's too cruel, it's too mean, it's the killer is too real. But there's some straight out funny scenes in this movie, and obviously you're doing it for a joke. And I just said it like that, and he's like, "What do you mean?" And I'm like, "Wait, you're not?" And he's like, "No." It is like I mean, I mean it to shock people. That's what I wanted it to do. And I'm like,
Mhm.
"Oh, okay, whatever, move on." Like, but then to his to his credit, we did that interview before I screened it in Toronto. So then I played it to Terrible Fest to a fairly packed audience, and we had some people who had season tickets for it. I was doing 4 days of movies. This was day one. And one of the couples who had the full season, they didn't come back the next day. And then I saw them later on and they're like, yeah, we couldn't do it after that one. We needed to really take a break. It really upset me. Like gave me like nightmares. I'm like,
Wow.
really? I'm like, oh, I guess I'm just out of the game. I'm desensitized to this stuff.
Yeah.
I put it because I thought it was kind of funny. And they're like, what the hell's wrong with you? And I'm like, oh, sorry, I don't know. So it's made me very picky for next year's Terrible Fest. I'm like, I don't want people to get the wrong impression of me now.
Now, when is Terrible Fest?
Normally we do it in March. We do it for like we usually did it as 2 days. Now we're branching out to more and more. So March has it. Then we do a 1 day thing just before Halloween where all the short films that are sent to me, like before every movie, I play one or two shorts. I usually do on like the last day a whole group of them for a bit, but then we do a multiple hour long thing at Halloween that's just the weirder short films that are sent to me. When you start actually getting your name out with the festival, it more than half the year I have the submissions totally for free, so everyone sends me stuff. So like our submissions end just before Christmas, so for the rest of December I've set the submission fee for free, and my phone is I had to turn the notifications off my phone because
Wow.
it's off the hook already. It's already filled with stuff that probably won't apply. So me and like one other friend will just like speed go through them. We're gonna find a lot of it is like once you put it for free, filmmakers who see that on like filmfreeway.com, they're just sending it to it. So some of these are like
Anything.
political propaganda things. They're, some rather negative things at times. Or if some people actually sent me these beautiful pieces of art that they were just like, well, we're going to send it to everything that's free. And those people, I'll at least send a message back to them. And I know some of these people have thought I was sarcastic, and I'm not, but I've sent them messages back saying, hey, I don't reach out to everybody who I don't choose, but I'm going to reach out to you because your short was amazing, and I know you sent it for free. I'm just letting you know you sent it to something called Terrible Fest. I don't think you want this spiritual journey about how you lost your mother to be on Terrible Fest. And most people have got me, but I've had one or two people who've literally come back and was like, don't patronize me. I'm like, oh, all right, that's not what I meant to do. But
See, this sounds up my alley. Terrible Fest, and this is in Toronto.
yeah, it's in Toronto. We usually do it like when COVID happened, uh, when the 2020 event happened in March, so it happened like 2 weeks before everything locked down. So we actually did do it, and I thought, well, everyone's talking about the virus, not many people are going to come. We had a packed show. I've never been so losing my mind ever. I've never been so on guard. Every time someone moved from their chair, I would like alcohol down their chair and things like that. And so the next year, of course, we didn't do it. 2021, nothing happened.
Mhm.
But we did it all online, and we met. That really made a internet family of a bunch of us, and that's when a bunch of us got together and said, "Hey, you guys want to just film something in your garage and then send it to me, and I'll edit together." Like a dozen of us have made films since then, like that.
No.
But so 2020 was all online, and therefore we gained a lot of fans who are not in Toronto, who have no way of getting up here for something like that. So we always do some sort of online content. Last year we streamed all of the short films on our website. The year before that, we did 2 of the films. Some of them I'll be like, well, obviously you don't want everyone to see it that way. But when we did the 2021, we did the whole thing online, and we did it so that we did it. I think that time we just did it on Twitch, so we could play them, and then everyone could be in the comments. The directors were all there talking to people. I was a little worried about that because sometimes you're gonna get guys who are like, "This is a piece of crap," and then like, "But the director's right there, man." Like, but it didn't happen. Everyone was
Yeah.
really super polite. People were asking real questions. People got involved. And a lot of those directors themselves made friends with each other.
That's amazing.
A buddy of mine, Jake, who goes by Gut Rot Productions, made a really avant-garde, weird collection of shorts, and I wanted to play the whole thing. So we played his whole collection at one point on it, which was a little heavy-handed for me to do that, but it went over well. Then this past year, a guy from Saskatchewan, with those who don't understand your Canadian geographics that much, that is, if you're still in the same country as me, but you might as well be in England. That's that far away from me. So as a guy from Saskatchewan who I didn't personally know, sent me a film which was called Killer Balloon and became the winner of last year's Terrible Fest. And it is not. It is because it was that funny and it killed in the audience.
What's the guy's name?
Devin Oman is his name. Devin Oman, I think it may be pronounced. But Devin is the maker of Killer Balloon. He is a company called Dead Prairies Productions, and he does it all to make money for his local RSPCA. Oh, you did?
I had the DVD somewhere around here, but yeah. I've seen those. Killer Balloon, yeah.
Yeah, we played on one of my shorter ones, one of our online ones. We played a movie, his first Gore Furs, his Killer Gore Prairie Dog movie. Anyway,
Gophers, yep, I've seen that. Yep.
Which has his Gore Furs 3, the final gnaw or whatever, is coming out soon.
Yes.
He's wrapping that up. But I couldn't be more like in awe of like how he was doing this and why he was doing it. He was just doing it to raise money for animals. And I'm
amazing.
Like, yeah, the guy is so also positive. But when I put Killer Balloon on, all of a sudden in one moment in it, it cuts away to like a fake little skit. And it was my friend Jake from Gut Rot Productions, and Jake never told me he did it. And he's like, "Oh, I totally forgot about that." And I was, how do you forget about that? But then, I thought, I'll open up the show with that because it comes close to home. It's one of my friends. I really love what Devin does. My movies are made to mainly help out a group too, so I felt really connected. We played it, and it killed the audience so much that they were talking about it all for the rest of the fest. I don't know if it was unfair that it was the opener for it, but because the regulars, the people who had the pass for the whole week, talked about it every single day, I was like, there's no way that can't win. So he gets the gold VHS tape award of that year sent to him. And he's been a fighting champ for us ever since. So we're very, very, very happy with Devin. And expect to see a lot more because he's still banging them out. He'll be
amazing, man. Amazing. Yeah. If you get a chance, watch that interview, man. It's a great interview.
Yeah, I watched a couple of bits on there the other night, and I have to keep going. We got to watch all the rest of Travis's stuff. People, come on, go click or like on them, leave them in your like so you can watch them later. Subscribe, all that fun stuff.
Yes. Now, I have a question. How do you get tickets to Terrible Fest?
Well, things like Film Freeway lets you sell tickets on there too, and I don't really bother with it. This is a funny thing because like the last 2 that we did with the small theater we do it in, Eyesore Cinema in downtown Toronto. It is a more underground theater than the rest of the theaters. It's smaller, but it's a video store in the front, a rental video store, and a theater in the back. It's one of the
Nice.
last like that, and it's the very reason we make our own movies. The first movie I ever did, we did for personal reasons and for fun. But then after that, it became so that I could convince regulars that hang out and go to the theater in the back of Eyesore and come to their movies. Even before I was doing Terrible Fest, I would start making my own movie every year, and where I would drag the regulars into the conversation. So there'd be people I know who would just be there, and they'd be kind of quiet, or they'd say, they'd come to like a book reading there, or some other night, the comedy night that was happening. I'm like, oh, you're not just here for the movies. You're actually like, you like to hang out here. Okay, guess what? You're gonna come into the behind the store where I'm gonna film you doing something. You're like, what? That sounds suspicious. And they're like, I know, doesn't it? And then I put them into one of my movies. Like, do you want me?
I would
Hey, you
love
want
to
to go in
come,
the
man.
back alley? I'll come and kill you. And they're like, okay. How many times can you be alone in the theater, have another guy who you've just sort of seen passing through there several times come up to you and say, hey, man, you want to go in the alley so I can kill you and put you in a movie? The amount of people who all say, sure. So that's why, and then we screen them at the theater and then we rent them there. So you can rent the movies out.
Nice.
And then I've eventually, after, especially SOV horror, once they were like, oh, hey, that actually sold, people actually wanted this. I was like, okay, well, then we started sending the rest out, as I will also pimp out for myself. Right now, SOV horror is kind of down at the moment. They're in a rest space. The creator of that is creating new businesses. So unlike a lot of other companies, they're all like, yeah, you guys own the rights to your own products. We don't own the rights to it, especially if we're not doing anything with it. So another company called Colton Classics decided they wanted to make Blu-rays for completely underground shot on video, no budget people. So then when they sent me this art saying, we made a new poster for your movie, we drew it, as well as your other movie, Muppet Bastard, and they did it for fun as like a joke for me, and sent it to me as a gift. And so then I
Oh,
said, well, then no one's selling that movie anymore, so you should do it yourself. So on ColtonClassicFilms.com, you can get that and like the two other releases they've now had. They're brand new. But the crazy thing about those guys, which I love, is they make pogs of the movie, and you can get a pack of pogs and every
I
Blu-ray
used to love Pogs, man. I used to love Pogs when I was a kid.
if
I
you
did slammers and all that stuff. Yeah.
So quote The Simpsons, my film is back, but in pog form. So,
And,
but the fact that somebody cares, good enough for me. Even if I make like $5 in the long, or make nothing, like we have an upcoming book. There's a book based off my Muppet Pastor movie that's coming out from the writer Jeff O'Brien. Actually, sorry, I think it's Jeff O'Brien. I've always said it wrong. I got one of his books here too. Hang on, I don't have the one he's doing about me, because Jeff spells his name like that, but this is his sexy slasher at called St. Patrick's Day. And he's kind of makes very racy books, but he said, hey, I want to make like a dirty version of your Muppet Pastor movie into a book. And I was like, that is weird, so sure, go ahead, but don't show me, because I don't want to tell you no, I don't want any of it. Just do it, release it, and I don't want any money. Jeff's a startup guy, like I am a startup filmmaker. So hey, if it does well, we'll talk about another project in the future. But you go ahead, you do it. So that's going to come out probably in January. We've just started posting the cover everywhere. He's
sweet.
pretty much wrapped it up. And I haven't read a single word in it yet. All I know is that a character where I am a priest who has to save people from a house filled with haunted puppets. That somehow he said he
Amazing.
had rewritten that. The second part of the book is a sequel that he's made up, and somehow he's made it dirty. And I can't handle that, but sure, fine. That's funny. I'll accept that. I'm gonna have a hard time reading that myself, but others I think will find it really funny, because Jeff's stuff is really funny. He really relates to guys like us in that film world. And he plans on grabbing a few other SOV guys to try to make their shot on video films into book form in the next year. So you're gonna see a bunch of stuff from Jeff very soon.
Well, I would love to have him on. So tell him to hit me up if he wants to come on and
Yeah,
talk
oh,
about
he
it.
will. I guarantee you he will. I'll be having him on a video I'll be posting very soon, just in general, because he's pretty much wrapped the book, so I want him to explain himself to me on camera, as like I'm a terrible father figure for him or something. He is he's out of Boston, and he's as Boston as the Dropkick Murphys. Like and nothing about him is
Love
not
it.
like this partying Rover's boy. Like he's just he's a man's man, that's for sure. But he's a lot of fun. So yeah, but anyway, with Terrible Fest, to get to the point of where can we get tickets, you can't buy tickets. The reason that I have not made that possible, we even have it listed on like Eventbrite that does like the local events for us. People will call in going, hey, can I get a ticket? And my response to them is, no, you can't. You got to show up. Basically, because it is limited seating. We do get a bunch of people who are like subscribers to like my Patreon and stuff like that, so they get season passes to it. That's only a handful of people. They're they're local and could do that, and two that follow my Patreon. But the rest of it, it's just sort of because we make every screening only $2 measly Canadian dollars. So I might, with inflation, I might go up and have to try to find a pun that makes $3 because it's getting a little expensive. But for the longest time, when it started out, we were only 2 days, so I called it the Terrible Toonie, because that's what a $2 Canadian coin is called. The Terrible Toonie 2-day fest. And so at that time it was 2 days. Each movie, there were 6 movies throughout those 2 days. Each one was only $2. So if you hated it, you weren't going to ask for your money back because you weren't ripped off. Again, now that it has been over 3 days, we're probably 4 days next this coming March. I might move it up to $3, but like that's it. It's just because I want a lot of. We have our regulars who get me. They come in for this. What I love is when normies come. When we played Clownado, this was actually to connect back to that. When we played Clownado, it was like the closing film. So it was after 2 days. It was really late at night. Most of the audience had been kind of burned out. A lot of people were there from the beginning. They'd watched 3 full movies already, and then I added that on. So they were kind of burned out. They were tired. A lot of them had gone home. So it was a smaller, quieter bit. But there was this huge storm, like crazy storm that was just like washing the streets clean. So I figured, wow, no one else is going to come in who hasn't been already here. This one group got out of an Uber and they were dressed to the nines and they were getting soaked because they realized they were in the wrong part of town.
Oh.
So they came into the video store because it was open after 11 o'clock. And they're like, okay. And there's just one clerk sitting there. Nothing's happening there. These super dressed up, like 3 couples, like 6 people. And they just said, oh my God, we're soaked. We realized we're on the wrong part of town. We missed the event we're supposed to get to. They were so upset. And I was like, oh, hey, we got a bunch of towels here. Put some towels on you. Well, what's going on behind in the other room? Oh, watching a movie. You want to just hang out and watch a movie? So there were some free seats. I sat them down. And they were not from this part of town. They weren't from anywhere in that area. They were laughing harder than anybody else because they were having the worst day of their life. And then we've seen them since. Like they don't live local either, but they've come when they come back to that part of Toronto. They come and visit and stuff like that. It clicked for them. It was just so funny to look at the rest of us, all of us guys wearing our Creature from the Black Lagoon shirts or a bunch of Slayer shirts and just hanging out at Terrible Fest. And these guys who were just like bejeweled in suits and fancy dresses and soaking wet with towels now around them that we just happened to have, and some of them sharing them. We only had like 2 or 3 that we just happened to have there. They were just there. They sat right up front, right up front, and just watched the whole film. And so, if nothing else, Todd Sheets, Clownado worked for them. So
For
that
them.
should be
Yes.
that's what matters.
I would love to come. I mean, just let me know what dates. I'll see if I can make it work.
We're
sounds like a blast.
Everyone's invited to the party. The exact dates, usually it's sit around the last weekend, like Friday, Saturday, and Sunday of the last weekend in March. I won't make that 100% official to probably January 1st because just see how the rest of the calendar works. We had to cancel an event this week, not with filming, but of some of the other stuff I do, just because I'm terrible at planning in a short period of time. So Yeah, I give people a lot of notice. And the problem with that, though, is then sometimes they forget, which is the same with filming. When you're doing no budget filmmaking and you're like, hey guys, I don't know, does anyone want to be in this film? I can just do one or two people in the scene. And then everyone's like, oh no, it sounds hilarious. Let's all be there. And I'm like, ooh, I have like 20 people who want to be in this scene. I'm going to
Let's
rewrite
do
this
it.
scene to look huge. And then by the time we get around to filming that 20 people becomes like five, maybe six people. And
Hmm.
one of those people is like, I can't do that thing you want me to do. And I'm like, all right, well, here, you just help with the camera. Now I have five people. And originally I wrote the scene for three. I rewrote it for 20 because I
Hmm.
am naive and assumed that would work. To go back to Todd Sheets, because I will, every time I'm interviewed about B movie making, I name drop him forever. He did a series of films called the Zombie Bloodbath. Bleh, I can't say it. Zombie Bloodbath Chronicle and Zombie Bloodbath, the original, at its time, it's not so much anymore, but it was holding a record for the most zombies on camera because major budget movies after that, like things like the Dawn of the Dead remake, was using digital replacements, and like the later on 28 Days Later, for sure they do. But this was a shot on video guy in the like smack dab in the middle of America in a small town, and he convinced his whole school to show up and be zombies in his
Wow.
movie. So there's all these extras in a movie that really doesn't have a whole lot going on for it because
But it has a
it's
lot of zombies.
yeah, it does. And it's funny. It's super funny. And if you are an aspiring filmmaker, it makes you look at it and gives you this thing, whoa, this was just like a guy out of high school doing this thing. And it was luckily at a time when you could go up to people and go, hey, you want to be in a movie? And that sounded exciting. It was the post
Yeah.
internet era. Like, you're like, I can become a bigger star on TikTok. Thanks. See you later.
Yeah.
Bye. And I'm like, it's not about being a star. It's you want me to dump fake blood on your face and have you run around going, oh, and
Like,
you
oh
have to
my God.
find the right people to like that. One
Hmm.
of my best friends for a fake commercial at the beginning of I think which film it was. Personal Space Invader Part 2. I did a fake short about a killer that wears pancakes on their face as like a fake commercial at the beginning of the movie. And I made a friend be a victim in it. So it's just a montage of people getting chased by me with a pancake on my face. And then uh, I knock a friend down. Then it cuts to a POV shot of the killer dumping maple syrup on their face. Nothing more Canadian than that.
Hmm.
And after seeing it, you can't tell it's maple syrup because of my bad digital camera. It could have just put water in there and done that, and it still would have had the effect. Not a lot of it's coming out. But
Hmm.
then after we realized I had made that friend of mine, who I was not paying, lay down on the floor, let me stand above them and film them as I poured maple syrup on their head, and it mainly landed there and was all in their hair. And and,
Oh.
and it's and not even like good maple syrup. It was like table syrup, like the
So,
real sticky, thick,
oh,
sticky stuff.
I was
Because
I was tough getting that out. I was tough
yeah.
getting that out.
Oh, they probably didn't talk to me for days after that. The fact that we're friends at all anymore is a blessing to me. And you learn this ways that way. You're like, wait, that didn't need to be real. We didn't need to do that.
Everything doesn't. I mean, sometimes less is more. You know.
Well, I mean, I'm already on a borderline of a lot less.
Yeah.
So when options like that come up, I like, oh, I could just do that. I don't need to cut corners. So my brain doesn't think like that. But yeah, that happens. But we will be filming something next year again. End of March will be Terrible Fest. There will be a new film that we will make. I don't have a great pun to make the title out of it yet, though. I have kind of a small draft of a film, and all my films, I only get the real feeling when I have a gag title, which is
Mhm.
Personal Space Invader happened with that way because someone said that word. The reason we did Amityville Outhouse was a friend of mine was making fun of one of the many Amityville Houses films and said, Amityville, whatever, I won't make fun of the one where we were making fun of. And then he said, more like Amityville Outhouse. And I said, give me 2 days. I'll be right back. And I wrote
Ready to roll?
Amityville Outhouse. Yeah. Muffet Pastor existed that way because my family is Scottish and they all they can't say Muppets, they say Muppet, and so I made the character Scottish, and it's just a joke off Puppet Master because I love all the Puppet Master movies. And deep down, I wanted Charles Band of the Puppet Master films to complain, and he never did. So once again, I lose. But yeah, it's if I have an idea for a new film. It's part of me is afraid I might accidentally try to write a superhero film, and I don't want to do that because there's a lot of no budget superhero films out there, and I've never found any of them to be good.
No, not at all.
So if you can't do it, sometimes just don't.
Mhm.
But also, if you yourself know you can't do it, don't do it. But if someone tells you you can't do it, then do it.
Yes,
That's
to
the
prove them
best
wrong.
fuel you'll
Yes.
ever. If not that, it just inspires people. Like we're all deep down pretty reverse psychology people as it is. If you tell me I can't do it, even if I don't do it well, it means I'm going to go and do it.
Someone inspired me. So this is how I started doing interviews. Someone interviewed me, and then they made a comment. They said, but they edit the fucking video down to like nothing, right? And
Yeah.
I was like, boy, this is not the same interview. Edit down that much. And they were like, well, I would love to see you do a hour-long interview and get 100 views. And I was like, watch this.
Yeah.
And
And I mean, they're in the TikTok generation that we're in. Some people like, the cuts, the flashes that I always enjoy myself, the casual, real conversations, even if one like me is blabbling on too much. I have a comedy partner, Morgan White of WOC Archives. The two of us do a show where we show rare media footage that we have, and we both have microphones and we riff on it. I sometimes play some of the weirder shorts that are sent to me that I didn't tell the people that I was going to play because I'm sort of making fun of it. I'm trying to be nice, but when we take turns on who's doing videos, so we do online stuff. He's got his web page, so he has his own style. He does archives of old footage from like just old television, so he plays quick, short little videos. Therefore, because of that, he has tons of followers, gets tons of views. It all just fits the algorithm very well. So when we do like a show together, sometimes we do them in live locations, and sometimes we do them online. When we do them online, if he edits them, it's edited really tight because he's a professional. And he knows how to do that, and he's really good at that. He is a professional editor at times too, for real companies. So then you'll go over to my channel and you'll see the same two of us do a video of something else of a different subject matter, but it's just us doing the same kind of joking, and I've cut like nothing. If anything, I've in the middle of it. If we say something I don't like to say, a random picture of a poop and a fart sound happens, and it just cuts out to the next shot. But he's got all these moving graphics, interactive parts to it. It's all super fancy. And then you go over to my channel and you're like, well, this is what it is. But then it gets the point across, because it gets the point across on our personalities. People who might see it the first time might think like, oh, it's too bare bones. But then they get to know us and go, oh, it's that way on purpose. It's that way. It expresses what we are on that show, and we express it differently on Morgan's show. On Morgan's show, we're about usually like talk a lot about the business of television and stuff like that, because we both have some background in it, and we both have a lot of anger in it. But we're also archivists of stuff, so we do a lot of like flashback to the 80s type stuff, and that's the flashiest time in the world in my mind. And then for me, I'm talking about guys who made movies with rubber dinosaurs, and they're in their backyard, and at one point you can hear their mom yelling at them before they put cut. So it fits with what we're doing. We talk a lot about like punk rock music and stuff like that, so it fits in. If I can name anybody else for you, and a guy that probably at this point is probably too busy now to be talked to, but you should look up his stuff, and if anything else, I'll just get it to you, because he'll be fine with it. It's a guy called Jordan Goff. Jordan is one of my more recent heroes in my life. He's another guy who I met through the festival and has become best of friends with, enough that he would drive up from, I think he's in Kentucky, and would drive up here to come hang out in Toronto, which that's a big commitment. So Jordan made a film over the course of 5 years called Dinosaurs in a Mining Facility. And in quality, is it good? No, not at all. but does from the very first gag, does it scream these who you're going to meet, and you're going to get these people you're going to like. You're going to enjoy these characters. You're going to enjoy what they have done with their limitations. Are they funny as hell? Absolutely. And are these jokes all on purpose? Yes. None of them are. You're not watching it laughing by making fun of it. Everything you laugh at is on purpose.
I love it.
Almost to a brilliant level. To give you the gist of it, where if you explain dinosaurs in mining facilities to somebody who's not a fan of this kind of stuff, you will throw them off, because you'll say, oh, Jordan found 3 small green screen graphics for dinosaurs, and he just uses them 1,000 times and overlaps them so it looks like a horde of dinosaurs, but it's all the same dinosaur moving this way, and it's all public domain footage that he found. And he's a musician, so he made his own music for it, though. He made music for our new film, Rock and Roll Asylum. Almost made me worried about the whole film, because his theme song is so good that it plays right at the beginning of the movie. And it made me go, oh no, that's going to make people have too high expectations. But Jordan sent me his film before I was using Film Freeway. He just heard about me online, and he sent me a message on Facebook at like 4 a.m, and somehow I was awake. It was just one of those insomnia nights, and he just said, hey, I'm wondering if I could submit my film to your Terrible Fest in Toronto. And I'm like, okay, sure. Like, this is really early on for us, so we weren't that known. I usually was like bugging people to send me stuff. And he sent it to me immediately, and I said, okay, I'll watch it later. And then I thought, nah, I'm going to watch it right now. So 4 o'clock in the morning, I watched this just barely over an hour sci-fi dinosaur comedy epic that he made, and laughed so hard that my wife got mad because I woke her up and she had to come down and tell me to shut up, stop laughing so hard, which made me message him right away, because he sent it to me just before Christmas that year. I remember this because I said to message, hey, Jordan, thanks for sending me your film. Just going to let you know, I'm not going to play you at Terrible Fest because I cannot wait. I am messaging the theater I do that stuff with, and I'm booking a show next week. I want to show it to people right now.
Wow.
And we played it. It just was at the right time, just before people kind of went away and were too busy for Christmas. People took just by luck, took a chance on it. I don't think it was anything to do with my hyping. So there was a real audience there. So I brought it a green screen, and I put it beside the movie screen and let people walk in, and I would film them. And then I would then later send each one of them themselves superimposed into the movie, because it was such a badly superimposed film that it made them part of it. And then a film friend of mine saw that we had that success, got him a small deal on a Blu-ray label, got him released. The Blu-ray is amazing. It's so funny and so filled with stuff, showing especially how he's now, since making that movie, been learning how to be a real computer graphics guy, and how he's like this other world above it, showing that this is how people start. And it's such an inspiration. Talking about Jordan and dinosaurs in a mining facility is about as inspiring as it is talking about Terry and Open Doom Crescendo and Mango Shake. There's 2 guys who have not yet got the real credit that they deserve. I feel like Terry might never want that credit. The way Terry is that he is an artist in every way. Jordan probably the same. They're very, very humble people, sometimes, which is, probably a problem being in this business and being as humble as a bunch of us are. But seeing the extra features on Dinosaur Mining Facility, I will send you the film regardless, so you see the film.
I would like that. Yes, please.
Jordan will be fine, whoever I send that to. But for the rest of the world, again, connected with the people who've picked me up, I feel like I should be getting paid by them, but eventually maybe I will. GoldNinjaVideo.com. You go onto there, you'll find a Blu-ray for dinosaurs. That for sure is still in stock. They didn't limit that one, so you can get that Blu-ray. It's super cheap too, so it feels like you're giving yourself a gift. But I'll bug Jordan to watch your show, and we'll see. We'll try to get him on here for you, because he's pretty inspirational to talk to too, because he's just he's so appreciative that any of his dreams have worked.
See, I love that type of stuff. Now, Adam, where can everyone find you, my friend?
Right at the movies is what I am. That's a pure coincidence of why I did not name myself that first. The middle initial name Riot comes from some terrible backyard wrestling days when it stuck.
Okay.
So much so that someone tattooed it on my back, which you're not going to see that right now. That's behind the Patreon wall. But you can go to Riot Movies pretty much anywhere. There, you can look at that up on Instagram, Facebook, all that fun stuff. There is also terriblefest.com, which links to a Ride of the Movies blog, but terriblefest.com gives the majority of the updates. I try to keep it more connected to the festival, but I pretty much advertise all my other stuff there too, which of course I'll be advertising the next movie on there so people will know what's happening, because anyone who ever wants to be involved can. It's a chance anyone who's in the area can always just stop by, and I'll be like, sure, here, hold this light, and then 2 seconds later we'll have you walk by and have someone kill you. I don't know.
Yep.
But that
Amazing.
it's a community project for the community by the community. But if you, or at YouTube, if you look up YouTube Right at the Movies, you'll see a picture of me in a lab coat in a shot frame just seconds before I get a alien monkey throwing poop in my face from my movie Personal Space Invader. So if you see the words Right at the Movie and you see that icon, you know that's me.
Adam, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on, man. I gotta thank Chris, man. This is a blast, man.
It is my job to pimp out the B movie world, so I'll talk more about them than I will me at times. But thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
It's no problem, man. It's no problem. I'm gonna try to get out to Terrible Fellows too, because that sounds up my speed, man.
And for anyone who can't, who is far away, when you do check us out on terriblefest.com, there will be updates on what we'll put out for online interactive stuff. There'll always be stuff where I can get some of the directors to come on and chat about their stuff for other people too, because if nothing else, it's about getting these people known.
Awesome. Great work, man. Keep up the great work, man. Listen, guys, please check my man Adam out. Please get over to Golden Ninja.
GoldNinjaVideo.com is just happens to be the label I'm on right now. They haven't been doing the selling us, and they're also the guys that I hooked up Dinosaurs in the Mining Facility. But TerribleFest.com will probably link you to all my other socials. It's sort of a one stop for everything for me. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, everyone, thank you for coming to the Horror Room. Adam, once again, thanks for coming on, my friend. I would love to have you back on in the future.
Thanks for listening to me babble on. Thanks to everybody out there too.
So no problem, everyone. All right, everyone. Well, have a good night. I'll see you guys next time. Take care.